we're back with our regular legal advisor, Michael Broglio from Broglio Inc. And today we're talking about a very specific part of the Road Accident Fund, and that is of medical undertakings. Now, I know that you don't want to be associating the word medical and undertaking in the same sentence because that could mean disastrous consequences, but he's going to be explaining to us exactly what that's all about. So, Michael, firstly, what is a medical undertaking? You put it in context.
Broglio, to put it simply, basically when every single case is settled 3 years down the road, you get a cash amount, typically, not in all cases, and normally you would get a certificate to cover your future treatment. The cash amount would relate to the money for pain and suffering, the past medical expenses that you've already paid, any future loss of income. But the Road Accident Fund compensate the future medical treatment you need, not by giving you cash, which they used to a decade or so ago, but giving you a certificate. And they say, we will cover your expenses going forward.
Yeah. So now once you have the certificate, what then do you do with it? Do you then incur your future medical costs as when they come about? And then who do you take it to? Who do you claim it from? What do you do?
Essentially, you've covered quite a bit of it. You do incur them as they come about. Typically speaking, you would pay for them as well and then recover the money from the Road Accident Fund. And they have a huge undertaking department, and you would basically write to them and say, this is my ID number, this is my claim number, I paid 500 Rand to Dr. X last month, here's my bank account details, please refund the money to me, and that goes off to them, and they would typically then refund you that, that money that you've expended.
Yeah. Now, as you said earlier on or back in the years, people would be getting the money up front instead of having this medical undertaking certificate. Is it something that people still ask for these days, and is it a wise choice? Clients
ask for it all the time. Most people want cash now, and they're not interested in the certificate or the undertaking. And they don't appreciate that it actually has a considerable value, that right to get that treatment over the years. And that in some respects it is better to have that undertaking rather than go and spend the money on something else. And I think that was one of the motivations that the Road Accident Fund came with changing that system years ago. But the bottom line is they give you that certificate. They're not going to give you cash, so you can whine to your lawyer, you can complain, you can pull out your hair, you're still getting the certificate, you're not getting cash.
But I guess the very basic reason why you wouldn't want to have cash is because maybe in the future, those medical treatments you would have had are going to be much more expensive than they're quoted at right now. So you'd get, let's say, 20,000 Rand. 10 years down the line, that same treatment costs 40,000 Rand, but you only have 20.
I think that's a very good point that you're raising. You know, all of these figures are based on what actuaries say, and the actuaries say that medical costs will go up at 7–8% a year, but we already have a whole lot of people complaining in the media recently. Their medical aid's just gone up 16%, the other one's gone up 9%. We know inflation's at 6%, so medical costs are clearly going up and have over the past few years at a much higher rate than inflation, and yet going forward, they always project that the sales are going to be, or the increase is going to be reasonable, just like they always say that Apple sales are going to be reasonable, and every single time they beat projections again.
All right, I like that example there. But let's talk about the case where, or a case wherein there's a bit of a back and forth between the claimer and the person who's supposed to pay it out, in this case being the RAF. Is this something you can expect your lawyer to help you with, where you're waiting for a claim?
Absolutely. I don't think lawyers are always excited to open that old file again, but they certainly would help you, and we've helped clients before. In some cases, we've even had to go to court with the Road Accident Fund to get them to pay out on a case, because in some cases they've disputed that the treatment actually relates to the injuries that arose from the accident. So that is something you could certainly ask your lawyer to do. But in most cases, all that's really required is persistence and keeping a copy of everything that you do, which doesn't just apply to this, it applies to any matter that you're involved in. If you send a letter to somebody with an account, keep a copy in your file. And if they haven't given you a reply after 30 days, off goes another copy of it.
Now, if I could just in closing ask the following question. I mean, it's always about the legal fees. So if you are going to your lawyer to ask you to help you about this, what kind of legal fees are we talking about?
I think you could always make a contingent arrangement with your lawyer, but typically speaking, if we've dealt with this, I've considered it as the after service for a case where we've already earned the money. So, I mean, there's a reason to go back to the attorney that originally assisted you and get them to help you. But I think that would be the rare case, and I must stress that. I think in most cases, the Road Accident Fund is a bureaucracy. They all have problems in terms of admin, etc., and obviously they have a lot of work, but they will pay out.
Oh, so once again, thank you very much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
There we have it from Michael de Broglio. And of course, for more information, check out our website, expressoshow.com. Stay with us.
Stay with Expresso and SABC3.